are in kind of an interesting household. You know, here in The Sims 4, kind of one of the big things that we've done is changing the personalities of the Sims. So I've set up these two mad scientist twins here, and when we look at their traits down here, this is Malachi evil. He's got the slob trait, he's evil, a genius, and then from his aspiration, he's feeling dastardly. So he's not too nice of a guy. And if we check on his brother over here, this is also Malachi. He's feeling good, he's a genius, he's neat, and he's gregarious. And these are really kind of the initial building blocks that you select and create a sim towards their personalities and who they are. So if we bring them out kind of outside of their little twin homes here, we can have them start interacting with each other, and that's where you start to see kind of the socialization that comes to life in new ways in The Sims 4. It's really the first time that we're doing a lot of dynamics between the characters and how they interact. So right here on the top level, I'm getting a lot of interactions based on who my sim is. He was a genius, so he can share these brilliant ideas. But, you know, this Malachi, the evil one, he's not too nice of a guy, so he gets a lot of nastier interactions. He can jeer and dismiss how good the other guy is. He can even get in a fight. So maybe we'll try that, see how the brothers duke it out. So they have kind of a mixed personality here, and that's kind of why we've got the split home going on for them. Just kind of give them their own little area to do things and get apart from each other. So we could have the evil guy come over and play a game, and we've got this cool motion gaming rig. I'll have him do a game tournament. And let's have Malachi. Our good guy lost the fight, of course, so kind of disappointing for him. But he can go off and, why don't we blast him off into space while the other guy's playing some games. And these are just some of the kind of fun new objects that we're bringing to the game. You know, we haven't had a rocket ship that you can actually go fly off in before, so that's pretty fun for players.
So these character interactions, relative to, say, The Sims 3, how much more sophisticated are they? How many more options are there? How does that affect the way the Sims interact with one another?
Well, a lot of it comes in kind of via that personality of the Sims and their emotions, which is very important. You know, he's feeling confident, so he has different things that he can do kind of to that effect. Got to turn the hologram over here. In those interactions, oh, he's off on a space adventure now. Let's grab a ship there. But the way that really comes forth in gameplay is kind of how you're clicking on different objects and finding new things to do. So I'll have him observe the sky. But you know, why don't we actually take these guys down to a different venue where they can kind of interact with other Sims, and we'll see kind of how that comes forth in-game. So he's back from his adventure. We'll get him out of the spacesuit, and let's go traveling. We'll take his evil buddy and maybe head down to the park and find a lot of Sims to interact with there. And so really kind of a nice thing that sets apart The Sims 4 is these neighborhoods that we can travel between. You know, Sims 2 had those very closed lots. You can just go off and wander around. Sims 3 had that gigantic open world. And this is kind of a hybrid of the two ideas, which really allows us to pack these areas with just tons of details and then lots of Sims to go out and interact with. So it's kind of the best of both worlds in that sense. Poor guy's feeling dazed. Let's bring his brother over as well. We'll bring him here. And he was feeling confident. So maybe we'll have him play a little chess, and that could actually result in him doing better at the game, where those emotions come forth and how they play. These guys are too funny. And then we got some kids playing over here. You can go play as a sea monster. He looks like a pretty gruff guy, so you might scare him a little bit. And he's feeling dazed too, so I don't know, maybe we'll bring him down to one of these kind of beautiful sections of the park. We could do a little fishing out here. We'll catch up with him in a second. We'll see how the evil guy's doing at chess. And so one of the cool things that we've introduced is the ability to multitask as well. So, you know, I'm not just playing chess anymore. I can socialize with other Sims while I'm using different objects. You can really start to stack that up as well. So some examples, if we went to the gym, you could have your guy running on one treadmill, chatting with his friend on the treadmill next to him, and actually watching the cooking channel on the TV. And so then they're building 3 skills at the same time, which is pretty neat. So we'll have him start to do some nasty interactions here since he's the mean one as well.
I did notice the multitasking was a little bit, like, there were times when it hitched a little bit, though. Like, characters would end up in these really odd positions. They'd, like, be facing away from each other and things like that. So are you guys still working on tweaking that to make it a little bit more natural and fluid?
Yeah, a lot of the social positioning just gets kind of looked at as we go along. Something really interesting that we did during the project was recording people kind of at parties. So we have this TGIF event that we do. You know, every other Friday we get a lot of the developers together, and what they didn't know is that we hooked up some cameras during those events. So we would have people.
Very Facebook of you.
Well, essentially we would have people kind of looking at how people socialize with each other, how people join conversations or leave conversations, how people move around when they're discussing with other people or where they're looking while it takes place. So a lot of that natural kind of movement and motion gets interpreted back into the game, and we're constantly kind of looking at that and evaluating what feels right, because there's so many different situations that you can get into.
Yeah, and I mean, I noticed that. I had some very, when I was playing, I had some very kind of natural conversation-esque reactions to things. Like, I kept not leaving conversations because I felt obligated to stay until there was like a natural breaking point in it.
Yep.
Which is like, you know, the uncanny valley of speaking.
For sure. So, looks like he won that first game. He's starting to get into some nasty interactions. But, so, a lot of people, if they were doing these kind of angry interactions, that would affect their emotion in a negative way. Because he's an eviler sim, so he feels triumphant in fighting, and he won his chess match, so he's still going to keep feeling confident because of that. And we wanted to make sure the emotions made sense in terms of how you've set up your sim. So, you know, the personalities all feed back into that. I'll mock her outfit a little bit. So Liberty here, I know she's a geek, and you can see our relationship's already tanking with her. She's more the video game type nerd, you know, he's the rocket scientist, so they can play off each other in some interesting ways.
Is that typically how rocket scientists dress?
Well, if you're kind of, you know, the steampunk rocker, historic rocket scientist, sure.
Wow.
I think it's one of the fun things with Sims is, you know, you don't have to go down the traditional path or any sort of implied story.
I like the implication there is that he just had a drink in his back pocket just in case he got angry at someone and decided to throw it in their face.
Yeah, that's the magic of the Sims. You can do anything. So now he's starting to get angry. You know, she's pushing back on him a little bit. And so he had, whoop, there you go. He's a masterful maneuver from playing chess, and he's near misery because he loves being near other angry Sims. So as we interact with her, let's actually get another social going here. We'll yell at her, and whoop. So I'm going to try this. We'll just talk with her, and we'll brush her off. We want her to leave. So we can see she's actually feeling angry now. And that's what's making him happy in turn, because he knows that she's angry, and so that's affecting his emotion as well. See if he caught anything down there. He's got one fish, a little minnow. He's not a very good fisherman yet. And maybe we'll have him come in and use the bathroom as well. Got to make sure our needs are taken care of.
And so in a lot of conversations like that, one of the things that I noticed is that your options very quickly evolve based on like the emotional state you end up in. Mm-hmm. And so you can go from, you know, just having a base set of like mean interactions to like the really mean ones.
Yeah,
to and including like becoming someone's enemy even.
Yep. The emotions have different strength levels. So where's our little goody two-shoes? I'm going to bring him back over, and you can see like we can actually declare enemies, and that'll set different relationship levels with different Sims. So we could declare enemies. So as soon as he gets off the toilet here, we'll make
very offended that he decided to use the bathroom.
Oh no, he's going to just ignore privacy, head right in and mess with them. So that'll start to get people embarrassed as well, because he walked in on him while he was using the bathroom. Cannot unsee. Quite true. Let's actually get him back out here, though. I want to try declaring enemy. He's feeling embarrassed for the opposite reason, because his privacy was invaded. Now this poor guy has to go to the bathroom. So, you know, it's still that classic balance of, like, modifying your motives and taking care of your Sims, but with the emotions kind of layered on top of it and their personalities. That's what brings out a lot of the depth and the experiences. So we can try and be friendly, but at least they can find some common ground in being geniuses.
Yeah, I mean, I think in my experience with the game, I was surprised by how captivated I was just by sitting around listening or watching people discuss.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I felt less of an impetus to have my Sims like go work and pursue careers. It's like, just gonna sort of watch them sit around and talk and kind of direct these conversations in various ways.
I think that's kind of one of the things that we found just as we were going along and watching people play in general. For the first couple of weeks of the game even, people seem to kind of congregate at home and explore a little further out. You know, they start seeing neighbors walking down the sidewalk and getting into fights or kicking over their trash can out front and exploring what that's about. And so they start meeting people, and that leads them further into the neighborhood, traveling to these different venues and getting into little situations here with other Sims.
So did you witness that in playtests and stuff and decide to really hone in on it, or was that kind of your goal from the beginning, to create an experience like that?
I think that's just the natural evolution of a Sims game, especially when we put a lot of content in like this one, is you feel like you have enough feeding you at home where you don't need to kind of go forth until you're ready for that experience. Something else cool, we can just hop into build mode at any time on these venues, so I can always go in there, steal. You know, one of the biggest things in past games is you couldn't modify an object that a Sim was already using, and we kind of got rid of that little annoyance. So you can go in and swap stuff around, and you can start building and changing at any time. So I could always go in and just kind of change these buildings if I wanted to actually move the entire thing here. Let's grab that. I can pick up the whole thing. Drop it down over here instead. So really powerful creative tools now as well, which is
facing a playground with a nice ornate building. That's pretty close to reality, yeah.
Yeah. Well, this part, you know, just the creative tools are about giving people the freedom to do what they want when they want it. So, you know, no more restriction of like, you can't place that here, or you can't go in the build here. At any time, you just get to go in, start playing around and doing cool stuff.
Well, and yeah, you mentioned it being very content rich a minute ago, and I think that's one of the big concerns for a lot of players is that they look at Sims 4 and they're like, well, why should I be into this when Sims 3 is already out and has a huge breadth of content? And like, I think some people are worried that this, relatively speaking, will be a step back when it first comes out. That, you know, maybe they should wait, or maybe it's not enough of a leap in terms of core systems to justify a purchase at all.
Well, I think for us it's kind of that leap in technology that allows us to do smarter things with our Sims. So, you know, not just their personalities, but how they behave, how they interact with each other. That social aspect is much deeper in this game. You know, I would even say going through, 11 Sims 3 expansion packs, we have a deeper socialization system in Sims 4 as it is than you'll find, you know, anywhere before. So I really love that aspect of it. And then just seeing, you know, how gorgeous it is, what we can do with our environments, how interactive they can be. I'm going to bring this guy over to grab a little piece of fruit off of here. He's a scientist, so he wants the microscopic sample. So you can actually take that back home and start analyzing it in his microscope and finding new strains of plants that he can then take out and start gardening and splicing together. It's little things like that where as you play further into the game, you discover these little details that unlock breadcrumbs down different paths.
Well, yeah, and in that vein, I mean, what kind of new activities are there? What sort of new progression paths are they? Say someone has already played a lot of Sims and has done kind of the traditional, like, I'm going to have my Sim, they're going to have a healthy social life, they're going to have a career. for those people, what is there that's new or that feels really different?
Well, we have our aspirations, and that kind of sends you down some different paths and gives you different things to explore. We've made it more goal-oriented this time, so if you want kind of a targeted experience and you want an idea of what to go out and do, that gives you an idea. So because he's a public enemy right now, you know, he wants to do 25 mischievous and mean interactions, and he wants to be disliked by other Sims. And so that's kind of our way of introducing you to different content and kind of seeing where that takes you. Oh, poor guy passed out. He had, his energy motive was a little bit low, so he's taking a nap on the ottoman. I'll have his brother here come get the microscopic sample in the meantime.
Is there any risk with that aspiration system of railroading characters too much down a single role? Like, for instance, if they decided to be evil, is it just like pretty much pure evil at that point? Is there any benefit to them also being nice, or also, you know, trying to be a little bit more gray than just, blah, I'm going to run around and say mean things to people and then get in Tasmanian devil Looney Tunes fights with them?
Yeah, I don't think it's black and white so much as, especially when you start mixing those personalities together. So, you know, you put different traits on them and give them those different aspirations, and they lead to entirely different conclusions. You know, this guy was very much set up to be stereotypically evil, but he could have just, you know, one of those traits. He could have the evil trait and, you know, something more family-oriented as well. He loves his family, so maybe he goes out on the town and he's kind of rude and a crude guy, but when he gets home to his family, he's, you know, very generous, very loving. So we set up all these different pieces that you can put together, and that plays out in different ways in game, which is kind of the cool aspect of The Sims. All right, dude, you're gonna wake up. And of course, kind of the group conversations are a really nice way that we've advanced our tech as well. Being able to have a bunch of Sims gathering around and chatting is great for them. They'll come join in the conversation. And so they do kind of reposition themselves and, you know, get in a place where they're kind of looking good, feeling good. It's like his hunger's starting to drop now as well. Maybe we better cut it off. Their needs are all going to tank. Anything else you wanted to particularly check out?
For the purposes of the video, no, not really.
Okay.
So, I guess on that, this is us signing off.